This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. Hour number 2 underway right here, Friday, August 8th, 8 a.m. on Jocks. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android, you can download that for free. That directs you to all the podcasts. That directs you to YouTube as well. A lot of different ways that you can tune in. Your CBD store wants to help you out in a lot of different ways. If you need a better night's sleep, if you need to wake up, feel refreshed, if you need energy throughout the day, better focus throughout the course of the day, your CBD store can help with that. Largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. First company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. If you have arthritis, if you have anxiety, they have products that can help with both. And even your pet arthritis or anxiety, they can help with that. Skincare, gut health for your pets as well. They've helped multiple pets in my household. They can do the same for yours at your CBD store. Here's what you're going to do. Go by one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver. Trustful just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, let's go to Wes Mitchell. Talk South Carolina camp so far and how things are progressing. Wes, first off, how healthy are the Gamecocks so far through fall camp?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. I would say so far so good. You know, this is always, I would say, about a weekend is the point in camp where you start to hear, hey, this guy's dinged up, this guy's banged up. Obviously, you're always just hoping you don't hear about the big one. Has anybody, gotten seriously injured? From what we understand, and Shane hasn't spoken in a couple of days, but as of right now, as far as we know, they are pretty healthy so far.
Looking at the defense, and look, all of my questions surround the defense. I feel like the offense can be really good. I have no worries on that side of the ball, assuming LaNorris Sellers is healthy. But the defense, there are so many pivotal pieces to replace. Where are we at right now as far as solidifying that starting 11, and what does the ceiling look like for that group across the board?
Yeah, I think that's where everybody's going to start when they talk about this team. Interestingly enough, even though Nicky Mawori is probably the single best just player/athlete, although D-Knight may argue with you there that they have to replace, I actually think that they're in a good spot in the secondary. They bring back a lot of guys. They bring back a lot of experience. They brought in Brandon Cisse, who was a starter at NC State. Torian Gray does as good a job as anybody, who is their defensive backs coach. I think they're in a good place there. I think you have to talk about the linebackers and really the interior of that defensive line are the areas where I think are the greatest concern. Now, internally, they're going to have to go prove it, obviously, but internally they actually, I think, have started to feel pretty good about this linebacking core, kind of being able to reload there. They've brought in a couple of transfers. They have a kid, J.R. Johnson, who was a true freshman last year that they expect to take a step. He's a freak athlete. He is kind of in that Bam Martin Scott, Demetrius Knight mold in terms of athleticism. So I think there's some quiet confidence actually with that linebacking group. To me, if you're really going to focus in and dial in on a spot that you say is still a question, it's those defensive tackles where you have to replace a TJ Sanders, replace a Boogie Huntley, replace a Tonka Hemingway. Those guys did so much for so long for South Carolina that I think that's where – I'm not going to say they can't get it done, but I definitely think there's going to be a little step back there. And, overall, when you talk about the upside, I think the question is, can this defensive line just as a whole be as havoc-producing as that group was last year? That was kind of what made it all click for them. I think, that's probably where I say their upside might be just a little bit limited compared to what it was last year.
We're visiting with Wes Mitchell, talking South Carolina football on the Higginbotham Hotline. I'm one that kind of feels like they can, just because they have so many bodies that have been on that defense, in that scheme for such a long period of time. And then, too, what I think is most intriguing about South Carolina right now, Wes, is we could go back the last 3-4 years. Shane Beamer's just flat out done more with less in the portal than anybody else in the league. I mean, there have been multiple guys that have started games, made big plays, been big players that we had no discussion about before the season. Is there a guy or two that may be sort of looking like he's going to fill that role again for the Gamecocks this year?
Yeah, I thought you might ask me that, Cole. And so Let me first of all give you a guy on offense who is the perfect example of that, and that's Boaz Stanley. This is a kid who was at Troy last year, and we kind of fun story. We got word, all right, this guy might be visiting South Carolina. We started asking around. I Google his name, try to get some background. It hadn't even been reported that he had entered the portal. He was so kind of low-key of a guy. We found out, he's been in the portal for, I think it was a few weeks at the time, which is like 10 years in portal years. And, he visits South Carolina, commits like the day he's on campus, signs, and next thing you know, he enrolls and basically is the huge favorite to be the starting center this year. So he's going to take over that spot on offense. I think he just kind of fits that mold you're talking about. They really just kind of know what they're looking for, and then they don't really seem to worry about the PR of, hey, is this a four-star, highly recruited guy or not? On defense, I wouldn't say it's quite in the same realm as going to find a Demetrius Knight at Charlotte. But Sean Murphy is a guy who was highly, highly recruited out of high school, out of Virginia, but he went to Alabama, then he transferred to Florida State. He transferred out of Florida State. And really just in terms of attention and his kind of recruiting stock and all that, it had kind of fallen off. And he's really come in and impressed. I think he's a good fit for what Clayton White likes to do at that linebacker position, has actually brought some leadership ability. They really like these guys that kind of have an extra level of maturity. Clayton White always talks about, hey, D-Knight's married with 2 kids, and, Sean is either married or engaged and just kind of is at a next step of his life. And so Boaz, same thing, actually. He got, I think, married this past offseason. So they really like these guys that have kind of their life a little bit more at a further along stage off the field as well, I feel like.
What about the receivers? That was a group that was hindered last year at times with injury and inconsistency. Are they trending in the right direction there? And in particular, where's Nick Harbor with his development after taking the year off finally from running track?
Yeah, I think that is the spot where the perception of what South Carolina is, maybe nationally or regionally at wide receiver, is the most different compared to kind of where I think it is here locally. Like I think the receiving core actually has a decent chance to go from a big question mark last year to being potentially a strength. You start with Harbor. I don't think maybe he's ready to go out there and catch 70 balls like Alshon Jeffrey did back in the day, but I do think just giving up track, which took up so much of his time in the spring. People forget this past spring was the first ever spring practice he's actually been able to go through and develop at South Carolina. So I think that's been big for Nick. I do think it'll still be a little bit more of a receiver by committee, but you look at the guys they bring back. Jared Brown, I think, has a chance to have a good year. Mazio Bennett should take another step. Vandrevius Jacobs, who was a transfer in from Florida State last offseason, he's had a really good offseason this year. And then all of these freshmen have come in. They brought in 6 all kind of highly recruited freshman wide receivers. They're all talented kids. They're up, they're down, but they're all pushing each other. They all have big upsides. They got a kid, Brian Rowe, who's kind of a smaller but speedy 41-inch vertical kind of slot guy that has really impressed since he arrived. Donovan Murph is another freshman wide receiver I think has a chance. So they're still a little bit young when you get behind the top kind of 3 or 4 guys, but these young kids have really come in and just pushed the guys ahead of them. So I think they kind of quietly feel good about that receiving core as well. And I don't really think it's a worry at all here, even though if you're kind of outside looking in, you're probably looking at last year and saying, man, are they going to have enough weapons around LaNorris Sellers?
I don't think the weaponry and its potential is a massive question. I just think it's more of who's going to step up and who's going to be able to help make those changes. What part of LaNorris's game do you feel like can make the biggest leap, possibly will make the biggest leap this season?
Yeah, if you talk to LaNorris, the big thing with him has just been kind of his anticipation. I mean, I think this is a kid, like, there's this narrative around here. I think it's just kind of a Clemson fan thing almost of like, oh, this guy's a running back playing quarterback, which if you watch more than one drive of him, you'll realize that's absolutely not the case. But, he can physically make all the throws out there. I think for him it's just more about being a little bit more consistent with his accuracy and being able to anticipate those throwing windows as opposed to kind of having to see them before he lets it rip. So, he's been focused on basically footwork, technique, kind of the cliches and stuff like that, but mainly anticipation in the passing game. Just, I think Mike Shula has been really good for him. Shula came in last year and was the assistant quarterbacks coach, as you guys know. Now he's taking on a bigger role this year as the offensive coordinator. But those two guys have really connected, and again, I think he's been good for LaNorris. So I think for him, it's just, man, putting together, like you see all the flashes. It's just, at times being willing to just live another down, I think. That's something Shula has really tried to ingrain in him is like, hey, this play does not have to be the highlight play every single time the ball is snapped. Let's live for the next down. Let's stay on schedule. The boring stuff that fans don't love to hear, but are obviously incredibly important in winning football games.
It feels like last year, though, he started to really start to believe in what he was capable of. Like you saw over the course of the season, his confidence level grow drastically. Is he the same guy mentally this year where he's kind of picked up where he left off with confidence and belief?
I think so. And, I think he's always kind of played that way, but as, with any guy making that big jump to another level, we saw it if you look at the ODU game. He was hesitant. He admitted he was nervous. It might have been the first time he'd ever been nervous in his playing career. And, it did take, I think, a little bit of time for him to be like, okay, I'm still who I think I am. And, I think the big thing for him, too, just from like a mindset standpoint, is he's trying to be a little bit more of a vocal leader this year and kind of not just be the guy who goes out there and does it on the field, but truly kind of leads his teammates, in practice and in the, in the facility as well. So that's something that doesn't necessarily, and he'll admit it, come like naturally to him. He's not a huge rah-rah guy, and you don't really have to be, but I do think just in terms of taking over not just the offense but the entire program and that leadership role is something he has been focused on this offseason. But the thing about LaNorris is the more you're around him, you'll realize, man, this kid just has this kind of innate, very quiet confidence to where a lot of times I don't think he feels like he has to say anything. He's just going to go show you what he's going to do. And he has incredibly high expectations for himself. And, I don't think he'd ever say this in a press conference, but he has incredibly high, like, national championship level expectations for the program, which obviously is what you ultimately want from your competitor, from your quarterback.
I'm with you. Watching the Netflix deal too, you got a little bit more of that from him, a little more behind the scenes of him, and I've had a chance to talk to him before games and obviously sit down with him a few times, but he continues to impress the more you're around him, the more you see him. So we appreciate the time today, Wes. Great stuff, great insight to South Carolina, what's happening so far through fall camp. We'll have you back soon to discuss it more.
All right, guys, I appreciate it and love what y'all do, so I definitely appreciate the time today too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wes. Wes Mitchell for Gamecock Central, part of the On3 Sports Network, at Wes Mitchell GC. You can follow him on Twitter. All right, so before we go to a break, Wes mentioned national championship aspirations for LaNorris Sellers. Don't know if you can get a national championship ring, G-Mac, but you can get a lot of other rings at Bromberg's.
Yeah, Bromberg's is where I've been going for a very long time. I always appreciate everything I receive when I walk in the door, and it's not even just the jewelry that I purchase. It's really the experience that I have when sitting there talking with friends of mine that are sales staff, seeing the selection, going through the options, and helping me out. And right now they're actually upgrading the Mountain Brook Village store to better accommodate their customers. It's just going to be a next level experience. It always is when you shop with the very best, a company that's been in business for nearly 200 years. That's time tested and proven over the course of multiple generations. that they will serve this community and they will serve the people of this community. So highly recommend going and checking out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, speaking of national championships, that has been a topic of conversation around the SEC. Some by folks who we may not expect. We'll let you hear that next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 8:18 Friday, August 8th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you guys being with us. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX will get you in. You can text in 205-834-9450. A couple quick notes before we go into some national championship talk. Yesterday, GMAC, Jimbo Fisher says still wants to coach. Says he's got a lot left to give.
And this surprises you why?
Only because he's got 75 coming his way. Other than that, 59 years old. I would have guessed older, by the way. I think I would have guessed older.
Coaches coach, bro. That's what they do. Like, coaches coach.
They coach and collect checks. That's what they do.
Well, I mean, coaches coach. Like, think about, for example, we have the adrenaline rush that's comparable to that of coaches, I think, on game day. Like, the excitement of doing a game. The excitement of all that. Like, imagine someone saying, yeah, you know what, Cole? Or imagine being able to do your job and choosing not to.
Yep.
Like, think about it. Well, could you do it? Would you like that? Remove travel, remove all that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you could take away all the negatives with what any of us do, you would consider that to be more of a positive, no doubt.
But I just, coach is coach. If you think you can still do it, why wouldn't you? Is my thing. Like Jim Harbaugh once told me, and looked at me as if I was crazy for not getting into coaching. He goes, you're supposed to play as long as you can, then you coach as long as you can, then you die. And so Jim Harbaugh looked me in the eyes and said, so I kind of get it. So coach is coach, man. It's hard to remove that. So not surprised at all that Jimbo Fisher wants to get back in.
No, I don't think there's any doubt that he wants to. It's just a matter of, well, in that point in time, Greg, it becomes, what are you willing to accept? Because it's cool to say I want to coach, but is he sitting there thinking, yeah, I need a P4 job and a head coaching job, by the way. Like, he doesn't want to go coordinate offense, in Conference USA. He wants a head coaching job in the ACC or the Big Ten or the SEC or maybe the Big 12. That's where it becomes complicated. I don't know. I don't know what's coming available. I don't know what his sales pitch is. I don't know. I don't know if anybody wants to go that direction. So I have no idea. It doesn't surprise me that he wants to, but it's just, what's the situation that you're willing to accept, saying that you're going to go back into it? That's where I think there would probably be some questions. We mentioned national championships a few moments ago. And before we get to that, I want to kind of preface this with, I understand everybody wants to win. I understand everybody thinks they can win. I just wonder if certain discussions from certain people are what they need to be, should be, or what's called for. From Paul Feinbaum yesterday, this was Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia discussing some of their expectations this upcoming season.
Offense and defensively to go really put our foot forward and go win the national championship.
I'm not trying to act like I didn't hear what you said. I did, but you're deadly serious, right?
Yeah, I wasn't cracking the joke. That's the standard.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you national championship. That takes a great deal. I feel like I'm just having a little fun with you here, but that's quite a statement. And by the way, I've heard your coach say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean NIL even the playing field. You know what I mean, for a lot of teams, and we feel like we got offensively and defensively our A game versus anyone's. Like, I like my team. You ask me who the best wide receiver in the country is, I'm gonna tell you someone on my team. You ask me who the best O lineman is, I'm gonna tell you someone on my team. Same thing with safeties, DBs, everything.
And best quarterback, would that be you?
You're looking at him.
So listen, I love the confidence. I love the confidence in your teammates. There's some that's just, some might say nonsensical or just inaccurate. Jeremiah Smith's the best wide receiver in the country. He doesn't play for Vanderbilt. There's no two ways around that. There's not like Parker Brailsford's the best center in the SEC. He does not play for Vanderbilt. There's not another way to play it. Caleb Banks is the best interior D lineman in the SEC. He does not play at Vanderbilt. There's really not a lot of argument there. We're not even going to go back and forth with it. The standard, Greg, is where I kind of start to wonder, okay, like what standard definition? Something established by authority, custom, or general consent as a model or example. That has not been put in place there. So, and listen, I was the one at media days that people laughed at when I said they're not going backwards this year. Vanderbilt's not going backwards, because there were a lot of folks I did interviews with, talked to, that said, well, yeah, but they're just that. It's Vanderbilt. I'm like, well, no, not that. You can't match up with their tight end. Their O-line has been addressed. They have a quarterback that runs their scheme extremely well. Defense gets everybody back. Maybe the most underrated running back in the league. So they're not going backwards, but where are you in having these type of conversations, saying these type of things when it hasn't been the standard, therefore cannot be?
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with saying it. Like, to me, that doesn't bother me a lick. And frankly, it doesn't hurt anybody by expressing the confidence that you have in your own teammates. It's inauthentic, but that's fine. I mean, I really don't. It doesn't bother me at all. I just think it's the reaction that people get to a guy talking positively about his teammates and oftentimes elaborating how good his teammates are is not new. It's been like that forever. I mean, you want to brag on your guys. Why wouldn't you? Doesn't mean that they're the best because it's inaccurate. But I think it's hilarious how people react so strongly to these things when all he's doing is just talking about his guys and talking about his team. Like, what should he say to that question that Paul just asked him? Like, no, Paul, to be honest with you, we really would just want to go, if we can win 5, feel good about it. Like, we just want to go bowling.
I wouldn't throw out that winning the national championship is the standard at Vanderbilt, because it isn't. Like, it's not at Vanderbilt. It's factually inaccurate.
But it's the It's what everyone, with the expansion of the 12-team playoff, it's what everybody wants.
Well, you just say that's our goal.
Everybody wants access.
Our goal is to win a national championship.
The losingest team in college football history made the playoff last year. Like, I don't blame anybody for having high hopes and aspirations.
No problem with that either. But when you say it's the standard, it's different. It's not the standard. It hasn't been. It can't be. Therefore, that is just a factually inaccurate statement. It's not the standard. Now, the new thought process of where we want the standard to be, okay, maybe. And every best player in the country doesn't play for your team. Like, I love the confidence in your teammates. You like them. But if you're going to tell me that so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so are the best, tell me why. Tell me why they're better than the others. You can't just say, like, I can't just walk around and say, yeah, we got the best radio show in America. Why? Because I said it. Things aren't real because you say them. They're just not. Like, hey, I got the best kids on earth. All right, why? Well, because I said so. It's not real. You can't just go around saying things and they're real. They're not. That's what I think I have a little bit of an issue with here is you can't just walk around and say things, and because you put a helmet on someplace, all of a sudden everything's real. That's not the way the world works. That's where I have a little bit of frustration with it. You want to have goals? Great. Say that's our goal. You like your guys? Say you like your guys. Don't go tell me you got the best receiver in the country, because we know you don't. That's just, sorry. You don't have the best off-the-ball linebacker in college football. He plays at Texas, in my opinion. So that's where it's just some of the confidence begins to come in as naivety and maybe even just a little lack of intelligence, to be honest with you.
Well, let's be real. Like, when listening to Diego Pavia in the past, has he ever reeked of, like, academia?
No, but it's just you should be educated in football. And, like, my major in college was football. I'm not afraid to tell people that. It just was. I felt like I was pretty well versed in football. Like, I watched Ricky Williams on game day on Saturdays. I didn't go around telling people Rudy Johnson was better than Ricky Williams. I may have liked him more, or have liked him better. Like we saw Orlando Pace highlights every day. I didn't go around telling people DeMarcus Curry was better than Orlando Pace. Because if I said that, I'd have been dumb when it comes to talking about football. And I didn't feel like I was. So it's cute, and it's beginning to come off as an act. And that's where I think the frustration for me comes in. It's like now you're teetering on becoming a distraction to your football team. Because this act is, this is like, I'm being serious, like if The Rock sat down to talk about the UFL and having ownership in the UFL, and he did it in full character. Like full The Rock character.
Actually The Rock, not Dwayne Johnson. The
Correct.
Rock sat down.
You'd be sitting there going, this guy doesn't own a football league. This is the guy I saw on television. Like, giving The Rock bottom. Like, what's he talking about? It's beginning to come off as an act, and I do think that can begin to show as my thought process there would be, are your teammates going to continue to react to an act? Because we know what college kids react to, and it's usually being genuine. That's why Shane Beamer recruits so well. That's why people wonder, how does Jeremy Pruitt go inner city and recruit kids? He's who he is. He's genuine. Why does Sam Pittman recruit well? Because that guy's been the same guy forever. He's never changed. He's genuine. And I think that's what I begin to wonder is this act going to begin to run sour? It's already getting there in the media. Is it going to begin to run sour inside the facility? That's what I would be concerned about.
Well, it's always been an act to me. Like, I don't know. I've never, like, I like that he's kind of brash and the fact that he's a bit of a breath of fresh air when a lot of these kids are trained to be robotic and not say anything. Like, it's kind of nice to have a guy that's willing to do things a little differently, but I've never sat there and really thought to myself, yeah, he believes that his wide receiver's the best receiver in the country. Like, I never thought that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's an act. I think it's bravado. But I don't think it's that dissimilar to what we see from athletes at every level. Guys saying, I'm the best corner in the world when you're not. You're not even close. Like, Darrelle Revis was 10 times better than Richard Sherman as like a lockdown corner. I think everyone in the league would tell you that. But Richard Sherman wouldn't. I mean, he's a great player. He's a zone corner. He's an eyes corner. He's a vision corner. He's great. Phenomenal at what he did. But if you want to go, like, best lockdown guy, like, it was definitely Revis. But it was a constant debate, and as a result, Richard Sherman got a ton of publicity, and as a result has landed himself a pretty nice, high-paying job covering the sport by being outspoken. Like, no one's putting guys on TV that are like, oh, ho-hum, I'm just doing the best I can. Like, oh, I'm trying my hardest. No, like, if you come out and say, I'm the best, people might believe you nowadays. That's the way things go, so I can't really blame him for taking that approach.
Okay. Gusty Goose Group, they think they're the best, but they also have over 850 Google reviews that are of 5 stars to glean on and say this is why we think we're the best. Also, they can talk about how they've served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Also, since 2012, the Gusty Goose Group has been recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. So it's not just Gusty telling you this and telling you how every agent he has is the best agent on planet Earth. They've got some proof there to back up why they are the best in Birmingham when it comes to getting you in the home that you need or getting your home sold. Call 205-542-1996 today and see what the Gusty Goose Group can do for you. That's 205-542-1996 or visit GustyGoolsGroup.com and start packing. All right, let's talk Arkansas. We mentioned Georgia's group of weapons. We're wondering what Arkansas is going to look like. We'll get some answers from Matthew Byrne next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, continuing to go around SEC camps and get some updates from what's happening in different places. We talked those weapons, obviously, at Georgia and what that's going to look like. Major question coming out of Fayetteville is going to be what Taylen Green's weapons look like, because it's pretty much been overhauled. Matthew Byrne joining us now, covers the Razorbacks for Arkansas Online. You can follow him on Twitter at Matthew Byrne, the #1. What are we hearing, Matthew, about this receiver core, this tight end group? Because outside of a couple running backs, I just don't feel like we know much of anything, how what's going to be around Taylen Green is really going to look this year for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, basically the skill positions, all of them are looking new. Mike Washington figures to be that starting running back, and then the receivers, you got Omega Blake from Charlotte. He's been one of their top wideouts in camp. Raylan Sharp is a guy in the slot coming from Fresno State that's actually childhood friends with Taylen Green from Texas, so it's not as much of a bridge as you might think. He connected on a big touchdown pass yesterday on a blown coverage. And then that third guy as of right now is C.J. Brown, is an in-house guy, but it was Ismail Cece, who was a transfer from Stanford. He had a weightlifting accident, tore some ligaments in that wrist. He had surgery on that, so he's been out on the sidelines. But those are the three receivers you're really looking at. And then tight end, again, is new as well. It's right now, Rohan Jones, transfer from Montana State, has been taking the majority of snaps with the starters in their fastball starts.
Looking at just kind of all the new pieces, it feels almost impossible to get continuity, but you do have Bobby Petrino back, and it feels like there could be the next layer of what they're trying to be offensively with Taylen Green. So you referenced the wideouts, that being a huge question mark. I'm a little more concerned about what things look like along the offensive line. Are they going to be able to protect Taylen Green this year? They feel like they've made progress there?
Well, yeah, and I mean, just talking with continuity, it seems almost very, very difficult right now to have in the college landscape with so much movement. Eric Mateos is returning for his second year in offensive line. Seems like he's had a little bit more time to build out his line. Went and got Corey Robinson, a left tackle from Georgia Tech. Really liked his pass protect. And then right now, he said yesterday that they're working on the run protect. Fernando Carmona is an in-house guy, a starter, a veteran. He's going to be moving inside to guard. Still a little bit of a learning curve. They went out. They got Central Florida transfer Caden Kittler. And then on the right side, it's an in-house three-man battle for the right guard. And Kobe Branham, the redshirt freshman, has actually been making big strides as of late. It seems like they're pretty high on him. So, I mean, it's kind of tough because when you're watching these fastballs, the pocket hasn't really collapsed much. They've done a great job of protecting the quarterbacks, but it seems like sometimes you might have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I mean, that's the first drill that they're doing in camp. It doesn't really seem like, defensive linemen want to get through, but they probably don't want to kill their quarterback to start a practice. And yesterday was the first full day of full pads, and now is closed to media. So in a few one-on-ones this week, the offensive line has been winning over the defensive line. So it's a little bit tough because then you're like, hey, what do you sort of take from that? Are you happy with the offensive line and then equally unsatisfied with the defensive line? So right now it's pretty hard to tell. There's a few, but basically the main takeaway is that there's a few new guys that they're high on and then a few returners to build it out.
All right, so when you look at just Taylen Green individually, how do you expect him to make a leap year two under Bobby Petrino? It's part of me looks at this and says, I know Bobby can call plays. I know how talented Taylen is. I expect there to be some sort of leap, but then we go through all the things you just ran through, and Matthew, and I don't know if we're going to see that from him. What do you think the expectation is from this staff of how far Taylen Green can go as opposed to where he was a year ago?
Well, I mean, I would definitely be interested to see in how much he's able to share the ball with his receivers, just because Andrew Armstrong, more than doubled any other Arkansas receiver in receptions, yards, not as much touchdowns, but still. And that's something that they're big on. The wide receivers coach, Ronnie Fouch, is just in here a few days ago saying that, a Bobby Petrino offense likes to spread the ball around and sort of feed the studs. And Andrew Armstrong was such a stud far and away that you think that if Taylen's able to develop that relationship with Raylan Sharp as maybe his A1 guy, but still be able to pass and have other options, that it's just going to make him more deadly on sort of a zone read in the run game. So that's kind of what I'm most interested for, because obviously he does have that running threat as well, which you probably think could be bigger if he has other weapons beside him.
How about defensively? There have been good moments. There have also been moments where it's like, what the heck's going on? I feel like that group in the last 4 or 5 years has been so remarkably inconsistent. Some weeks they're great, a la Tennessee last year. Some weeks they gave up 700 yards rushing. It's like insane. I never really know what to expect. So overall, just top to bottom, how good did they feel about their defense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they themselves in-house are feeling pretty good about it. A big position battle right now that they're trying to figure out is cornerback. That's kind of their biggest target. Sort of the hallmark of that group is that they have some really big, heavy, guys in the secondary. Like a Larry Worth or like a Julian Neal, a Jordan Young, Selman Bridges. So there's a lot of rotation going on in the secondary and fastball starts. Other than that, linebackers is obviously going to be a big returning focal point, just with Steven Dix and Xavier Sori. I mean, those are really the main double-digit starters from last season. And then on the defensive line, Cam Ball anchors it. And then, there's a few question marks. There's two guys that, were with the Hogs last year, got to step up, and then they get Justice Boone, the end from Florida. That's also what's that going to look like. So right now, to answer that, corner is the biggest thing, and then they'll fill stuff out. But they feel like they have a lot of guys that can play a lot of different positions in that secondary and move around a lot.
Visiting with Matthew Byrne, talking Arkansas football. How healthy are the Hogs right now? Injuries a little bit of an issue last year, and with very little depth returning, and obviously some new players added through the portal. How's the health been so far through camp?
Yeah, so kind of the biggest thing to look out for is Caden Kittler, is the center I was talking about from UCF. He was a little bit banged up yesterday, which was basically a new development. But we knew going into camp that CC was going to be out. And Sam Pittman's thrown around words like probably done for the season, or, kind of likely to miss the season. So that's kind of a big loss. But other than that, I mean, saying other than that when it's a big loss, but really those are kind of the main two right now. And we'll keep an eye out for stuff as it goes through camp. Going to be at practice 7 later this morning.
What do you think is the biggest strength of the team overall?
Oh man, I think it kind of just all hinges on Taylen at the quarterback spot. I think that's going to be with so many skill guys, with so many new skill guys, and him sort of being the anchor of this offense. I think it's going to come down to him. And certainly, I think he took strides in his first year, and that's kind of the biggest question. Is like second year Taylen Green, second year Bobby Petrino. In that system. But I think it's just going to be in determining how sort of like the season plays out. Like, I think it's just going to be a tale of what wins. There's so many things almost going for you. Like, Travis Williams, third year as a defensive coordinator, Petrino, second year, a few other guys that are coming back in their second years. So you're saying, this is great. There's familiarity, there's comfortability here. But then on the equal opposite side, there's so many new pieces as well. So it's like, how does a new position, how does a new skill group fit within, a new Bobby Petrino offense, minus Raylan Sharp, who already knows the system, and how that's going to play together. So I think that's the biggest thing right now. Continuity is hard in college football, but I think that's the biggest question. But I think their strength is definitely Taylen, and it honestly needs to be.
Matthew, we appreciate the time. Great insight to this Arkansas program that we have a lot of questions about. There's a lot of it that we have uncertainties with. A couple things we feel really good about, but just some unknowns there. And you cleared up a few as we've gotten here, reaching the halfway point of fall camp. We'll do it again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Matthew Byrne joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Again, you can find his work at Matthew Byrne, the number 1, or at arkansasonline.com, covering the Razorbacks. I don't know truly how much more clarity that brought, G-Mac. I mean, I think the weapon's still just going to be a massive question. If they can find a way to gel, if they can find a way to separate, make some plays for Taylen Green, specifically that offensive line, if they can find a way to go out and give him a little bit better protection, even though he's got that escapability, I mean, they can be scary. I don't think there's any doubt about it, that they can be a team that moves the football and is a problem for a lot of folks.
They're going to score. Like, I still, even with their weapons, those guys have played college football before. Like, Omega Blake's been around for a long time. I'm not that concerned about their ability to score. I just wonder, I mean, the secondary's been a problem for how many years now? 5, maybe. I mean, and I'm talking like real problem, where they had guys in the back end that were just major liabilities. So I think secondary, I think depth on the defense at all 3 levels is something that has me a bit concerned. But I do think they're one of the few teams that I know can move the football, because I do think their quarterback's got a chance to be transcendent this year if he takes the strides necessary to become a little more consistent thrower and a little better decision maker.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be all right.
All right. So it's going to be a fun year in Fayetteville with that schedule. Like we said, they got a chance to get off to a good start, and then that would provide some massive home games as you would near the halfway point of the season. So I'm interested to see. I know you always want to go, what's the situation with Sam Pittman? But I kind of want to keep these camp updates about the team, about the players. But sometimes I do wonder from folks that cover the team, like, what do they realistically think is going to happen with Sam Pittman? Is he going to be on the move after this year? I don't know what the situation is going to look like, going to be. I don't know where you would go if you were Arkansas based on what he's already proven that he has the ability to do. And we all thought they'd be way ahead of the game in NIL, and it doesn't feel like they really are, which just makes it even more of an intricate case study. What we do know, Greg, is if you need to move out of your home into a new home, Crocker Moving Services can help.
Yeah, they're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. Look, I've been using these guys for a long time. I've always had a great experience. I'm always very, very grateful to the experience I have when I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about making a move or thinking about having to move some stuff around, or we purchase something, need to get it to our house. It's great to know that I have a trustworthy group at Crocker Moving Services that can get me taken care of. Highly recommend going and checking them out online. CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, we'll get to a break, come back a little bit more around fall camp here in the SEC next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, 3-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. 800-239-WJOX. And as we continue going around these different camps, G-Mac, and you look at what's been proven, what hasn't been proven, as it pertains to Arkansas, who we just referenced, what do you feel like you want to hear, need to hear coming out of Fayetteville before this season starts that might increase your confidence in what they have the ability to achieve this year?
Well, I'll tell you that in a moment for sure, but first I want to tell you about my friends at Bill Smith Buick GMC. They're the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champions of GMC dealers. They've done an amazing job for a number of years. They've won the national championship 8 times overall, but they've won 5 in a row. It's because of the deals that they can give you on the lot, like $14,000 off a GMC Sierra SLT, like $5,000 off a Buick Encore GX, which is a sporty, economical SUV you can get you out for under $25,000. These are beautiful vehicles that can give you for, in some cases, a ridiculous discount. So take advantage of those savings. 75% of their customers are repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take a short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com. But looking at Arkansas, I think the biggest thing for Arkansas is consistency. Like, they have had wild swings in inconsistency. Some days they're great on offense. Some days they're lousy on offense. Some days they're great on defense. Some days they're lousy on defense. I think over the last 4 or 5 years, the ceiling of Arkansas can go with anybody, but the floor of Arkansas can lose to anybody. And that's what I've had a hard time in evaluating this program. I know they've had a lot of turnover. I know they've had a lot of different challenges. I know they've had inadequate personnel in some spots. But the ebbs and flows and consistency to me make it almost impossible annually to predict what you're going to get from that team. I mean, is it fair to say for you, Cole, they were the most inconsistent team in the SEC the last couple of years?
I mean, they're up there. I think when you're talking about that team a year ago with what they were and what they were when they were good, what they were when they weren't good, I think that's what really starts to happen when you're leaning too much on individual players. And Taylen Green was the guy that carried the offense and at times carried the team. So where was your traditional run game? As you stated, at times it would show up, it looked great, they'd get downhill. At other times, it just wasn't present. Some of the receivers, whether it was drops, route running, defense, giving up big plays. Sometimes pass rush looked great, sometimes it didn't. So I'm with you on the consistency portion of that, but you still got to have big players make big plays. And if you have a quarterback like Taylen Green with what he's capable of, it can't just be scrambling, running around, running for his life, making those plays. There's got to be a consistent way to force a defense to be certain things if you're going to be able to go out and continue to do that. The schedule, not as bad as it has been, though, for the Razorbacks. Alabama A&M, Arkansas State. That game at Ole Miss just continues to feel like it looms large. I'd tell you the one I'd be scared of is if you beat Ole Miss and then you go to Memphis the next week, because then you have Notre Dame the following week. That's the one that would make me nervous if I was an Arkansas fan, because that Ole Miss game's massive.
Get Ole Miss?
Do I think they can?
Yeah.
Yeah, this year I think they can, because I think they can score on them. So if Travis can find a way to, let's just say, confuse an Austin Simmons or force him into some things that maybe gives them a couple of turnovers, then yeah, I think that could be a problem. So, you got Justice Boone coming in who might be able to help you off the edge. You have a really strong core of linebackers that when they're asked to blitz can find ways to get to the quarterback, whether that's Dix, whether that's Sorey. And I think you'll probably see, Larry Worth is a safety that can essentially come down in the box and be a linebacker. So I think you'll get a lot of pressures there. The ability to cover, I don't know. You got a new nickel, you got a new corner. I don't know what that group's going to look like as much on the back end, but you find a way to pressure Austin Simmons and kind of put points on the board, which I think they'll be capable of against that defense. Yeah, they can catch them. And then if you do, you could be looking at a 4-0 Arkansas team with Notre Dame coming to town, which would just be awesome. That atmosphere in Fayetteville would be incredible. But that game also just as big for Ole Miss because they get off to a good start. They could be 4-0 with LSU coming to Vaught-Hemingway. More SEC talk next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.